We're starting to build a project today. The project, we'll call the project Trivia, or TriviaGame, or just Trivia, right? We start off with the data of the object of the project. The data here is trivia data, that's Swift. That data encapsulates or is an array. It's an array of dictionaries. And here we have data. Each element is its own array. Here we have question, right? Question has 5 keys. The first key is question, second key is correct answer, third key is choices, fourth key is fact, and the fifth key is trivial type, right? So far, so good. So we started talking about object-oriented programming last week when we introduced enum, structs, and classes. Today will be our first exercise in building an application using object-oriented principles and using this data here to encapsulate objects into our application. Where we'll start with a command line application, right? We'll start out by creating a new command line application. We'll go to Xcode. So let's navigate to Xcode. Navigate to Xcode and select a new project. So select File, New Project. Right? So the new project is a macOS, so make sure you have macOS selected. We're familiar with that. We've been doing macOS applications from week 1. So it's a macOS application. Select Command Line Tool. It's not a playground. So far, so good? Okay, excellent. So it's a Command Line Tool. Select Next. And for the name of our application, we will call it TriviaGame is fine. Press Next and save it. You could save it in your Unit 1 folder. Okay, so here we have a command line application. We're familiar with it? So far, we've been seeing the main.swift file. Everybody familiar with the main.swift file? Right, so let me make this bigger, sorry. Main.swift, this is where we've been living for 4 or 5 weeks. Right, so main.swift, here we're importing Foundation. Foundation is a framework that has all the basic APIs, structs, classes we use. Very good. So today we'll create our first Swift file. We'll create a Swift file. If you navigate to where it says main there, do you all see main in the navigation window to the left? That column here, main. So select main, and you could press Command N. Command N. Command N. Command N brings up that dialog. Command N, new file. Let's really see what's happening here. So Command N is going to bring up the dialog. So far, so good. We all have a dialog. Let me go back. One way you could do it, cancel out of here. One way you could do it, you could navigate to where it says File, New, File. Everybody sees that. File, New File. Right? File, New File. Or, shortcut, you could Command N for the shortcut to bring up the new file dialog. Does everybody have the file dialog up? Go to File and go to New and select File. Got it? And Command N for short. So here we have a dialog box. Let's really talk about, not too much here for now. We'll talk more about that into Unit 2. But for now, what we're interested in, does everybody see where it says Swift file here? Do we see Swift file? Okay, that's what we want to create, but not yet. So make sure you have macOS selected, and where it says Swift file, not unit test, not any other one, but Swift file. We want to create a new Swift file. It has the .swift extension. So select Swift file, and go next. Where it says file name or save as, here we want to give it a name. We'll call it Trivia Data. I call it Trivia Data. Do not give it any extension. It knows its extension already. So do not say Trivia Data.swift. Everybody with me? All right? Because you selected a Swift file, it has that extension already. So do not go ahead and do Trivia Data.swift. Just Trivia Data. Everybody good? All right. So Trivia Data, that's it. And make sure the targets is selected, where it says targets here. Everybody, make sure that's selected. Yes? You want that file to be part of your project. If you uncheck it, you'll have issues. So make sure the blue check mark is on. Everybody with me? All right, cool. Next step, click Create. Great. Now we have a second file, not just the main.swift file. We have a trivia data.swift file. Everybody with me? Okay, let's navigate to our browser where we had, let's navigate to the browser where we have the trivia struct. Everybody at the browser. Okay. Okay, what you want to do is select everything from import foundation. Select everything from import foundation all the way down to the last curly bracket. From import foundation all the way down to the last curly bracket, you want to go ahead and select all there. Command C, copy. So copy it. And navigate back to Xcode. And you could paste it right over foundation there. Right? So at this point, you have a file. It has your name and everything. It has import foundation. It has a struct called trivia. So far, so good. And trivia, if you double click on the open curly, it should highlight the entire struct file. So far, so good. Go ahead and Command B, make sure you have no errors. Command B, it builds your project for errors. If there's errors, it shows you the errors. So at this point, if you Command B, there should be no errors, correct? So far, so good. Very good. So here, this is the data for our project. This is the data. We have an array of dictionaries. Those dictionaries are questions. So far, so good. Our objective is to build an application using object-oriented programming to break up our objects into individual components, right? And create some sort of game. Create some sort of game for the user to play, for the user to see their score, and so forth. Yes?
I'm sorry, this is probably not very important, but for mine is line 25, I'm not sure.
Line 25.
The fact, the pure print sound, well, it's missing the T. Would that make any difference or not?
Which one is missing a T? Insomnia is missing a T?
No.
Is it a key missing a T? Is it a key or a value?
I'm not sure, I can't tell.
If it's a key,
It says, I'm guessing the key would be fact.
so it doesn't matter. Whatever the value is, we could fix that. As long as the keys are consistent, that's what we after. All right, very good. At this point, we're all okay, huh? Right? Okay, let's test a couple things. We have data. First of all, we want to test if our data is valid. Everybody with me? So let's test if our data is valid. You could move the files around, by the way. Let's make our trivia data. You could drag it over your main.swift file. So you could drag your trivia data Swift file over your main.swift file and keep the main.swift file, the last one. It doesn't matter, right? The order there. All right, so make sure that you're back in the main.swift file. Everybody, move the hello world here. Amini earlier said the way to access trivia, the data, is by, we said it's a type property. We all agreed? If we look at trivia data, right, and we see static let data. It's a type property, correct? And we access it via the type name, right? We access it via the type name. We say trivia.data. Everybody with me? All right, so let's go ahead, go to main Swift, and print. Let's follow along here. So there are elements in trivia data. So here we have access to trivia.data.count. And to run it, you do Command R. To run is Command R. To build is Command B. Command B as often as possible to see your errors. So here we have, there are 10 elements. Sorry. Here we have, there are 10 elements in trivia data. Everybody got that? Everybody got that? So already we saw data. We have 10 objects in that array. So far, so good. Right? You could feel free to add more questions there as you go, right? I added just 10 just to get us started. But you could add more questions, make it fun, make it your own game. So here we have 10 elements in the trivia data. Great. But how do I get to a question? Right? I want to get to an individual question. I want to be able to create questions so I could start my game. So here we want to think about, let's look at our data again. Let's look at our trivia data. Yes, sir?
Okay.
So we want to look at our trivia data again. Earlier, somebody mentioned that we could have a question struct, which makes sense, right? Questions are individual. Each question has its question prompt or whatever we want to call it. It has a correct answer, a choices. Basically, we want to create the template for what a question looks like. So far, we have them in a dictionary, but that's not enough. We have understood, or we understanding, that a dictionary doesn't really explain what an object is. So far, so good? A dictionary doesn't have properties. I can't say dictionary.question. Can I? Can I? Right? I can. But I could have a struct or a class being a question, and I could say on that instance, what are your choices? Everybody with me? All right? On a question, I could say, what's your correct answer? On a dictionary, I can't. I have to go through it, get the key, and this is not the way you want to go. I want to be able to create instances of whatever that object is and say, object, get me your property. Everybody with me? That's where we say we're talking about object-oriented programming. How can we take this data here and put it into an object for ease of use? Right? How can we do that? Well, we could start by creating a question struct, which we'll do. So go ahead and create a new file and call it question. Should that file be uppercase Q or lowercase q? The file name. Uppercase Q, right? We want to keep all types, all file names uppercase. Yeah, so create a new file, call it question. It's a Swift file. So go ahead, new file, Swift file. It will be a question struct. But name the file question.
Why did you say uppercase? Because it's not a data type.
Well, it is a data type. It will be a data type. It will be a struct. But the file name could be different from the actual struct name, but keep them consistent.
Just question.
Yeah, Question.
It's similar to what
What did David? I don't know.
when we
Must be, yeah.
something.
Yeah, whatever he showed you is correct. Yes. Cool. So here, let's create a new file, call it question with an uppercase Q. And that question will be a struct. Right? So in the file, create a struct called question. You guys could go ahead. No waiting for me. We start with a struct, as Apple said. It's lighter to use. Okay? Always start with a struct unless you want something else. Okay? Always start with a struct. It's the default. Okay? It's lighter. A class is more overhead. Okay? We know what we're creating, right? We're creating a struct, right? Inside that file. What's the struct called? Question. How many properties does the struct have? 5. Exactly. So go ahead and create those. What's that? You could call it question prompt instead of just question if you want. All right, so we're creating a file, new file. It's a Swift file, right? Swift file, not Objective-C file. Swift file. Click next. Give it a name. Here we call it question. Right? Question. Not questions. Remember, our types are singular. What's that? Say it again. No, that's the one I just asked you guys to build. That's a third one. So we have main.swift, we have trivia, and now we have question. So far, so good. Yes, sir?
The order of these files, is trivia go on top, question go after that?
Doesn't really matter. You could keep main, doesn't really matter based on compiling. But for order of, you could put question first if you want, and then put trivia, or you could put trivia first. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so it's called question here. And I click next or create. Okay, so here I have a question. What are we supposed to build? We're supposed to build a struct, right? Yes. What's that? Oh, go ahead and answer it. Yes, we're supposed to build a struct. And a struct starts with the struct keyword. And we said it's called question. So far, so good. So far, so good. What's that? Command N. Okay. I want to show us convenience initializers again, like we did this morning. So let's change struct to a class here. More practice. Because with a struct, you don't use convenience, you use just init, just the word init. So here we have a question. What are the properties? We have question prompt, if you want to change the name. What type is question prompt? A string? Yeah, they're all strings, yes. What's the other one? Correct answers, thank you. Correct answer is also a string. And we have choices, string, fact, string. Do we have one more? Trivia type. What type is trivia type? All right. So here we'll stop and we'll think about it. Well, first of all, we need something. We're missing something. What are we missing here? We have an error. The initializer. Because if this was a struct, we would be fine, right? If we said struct here, what does struct have? Why don't we have an error? What is that called? That thing. And I heard it the same place twice today from the same place. I want to hear it someplace else later. Right? Cassandra, what do we get from a struct? Why don't we have an error here? But what's that initializer called? I see you, I see you, I see you. What's that called? Member-wise, yes. All right, same question tomorrow. All week, we're here all week. Yulia, what's the question? What's the initializer called? Member-wise. All right, very good. Yeah, we went back to class. We have to be able to see the differences between them. It's good to go back here to see the differences. And here we need what? We need a? And what would that initializer be called? Designated. Awesome. Love it. Chelsea is also here all day. All right, so here we'll create some sort of initializer. Actually, you guys will create the thing. It's review. If I do everything, I can do everything on Thursday. That's not gonna help. I'll do everything wrong. And don't blame me. So here, what are we doing? To do complete. Say that again. Oh, on your files? That means you haven't committed. Okay, to do complete designated initializer. If you're done with the designated initializer, you could create the convenience that takes in a dictionary. Because remember, we have an array of what?
Dictionary.
Dictionaries. So we can't use that designated initializer for it as is. So if you're done with the designated, create the convenience that takes in a dictionary. Very similar to what we did this morning. Right, so our data is an array of dictionaries, correct? Correct.
Put that in our initializer.
Convenience in it. You can make it failable as well. Okay, cool. So complete designated initializer. We come here. We say question prompt is a string. Correct answer is a string. We say choices is a string. We say fact is a string. And we say trivia type is a string. Great. And here I say self dot question prompt equals to question prompt. I say self dot correct answer equal to correct answer. I say self dot choices equal to choices. Self dot fact equal to fact here. And lastly, self dot trivia type equal to trivia type. Sting. All right, awesome. So far, so good. Your next challenge, should you accept? We're done with our designated initializer, so I'll remove the to do here. refactor the string. So to do refactor string to enum of type trivia type. What are we doing here? String doesn't make too much sense, right? Because the way we want our user to use our question is by an enum, right? They can put in their own string trivia. It's going to be .movie trivia or .game trivia, whatever it is. So I want us to refactor this. Does that make sense, by the way? Right, to make our trivia type an enum. Any questions? We have a finite amount of trivia questions. What goes into a finite type? What's that type? There's a type in Swift. It's defined by related values. Right? The related values in that trivia is movie trivia, game trivia. They're all relatable. Does that make sense? I want to choose one of those trivias to play. Having a string, the user could put in any string. Then I have to guard against, is that string a valid trivia type? Right? You with me? So here we want to stop and think about what we're doing. Like, what are we doing? Like, what should trivia type be? Trivia type in that case, an enum is a better use case. I have a finite amount of trivia games I have in my game, maybe 3, maybe 4, right? Finite, think of enum. Everybody with me? I see. Yes, Julia, you do not see that. Define what an enum is. Enumeration, enum. What's an enum? What does an enum do? What's that? You cannot define it. That's fine. That's fair. Anybody wants to define what an enum is? Yes, sir. So yeah, related values, right? So we have days of the week. We capture it in an enum because it makes sense. It's finite. We have 7 days in the week. Then we could switch on it. It's easier to encapsulate, right? So think about encapsulation when you're thinking about your objects there. What is the best representation of a trivia type? Is it a string? Not really, because a string is finite. I mean, a string is infinite, right? A string could go on forever. The user could put in any string. It's not one of my games. I only want the user to start my game with a valid type of my game. My game might have 4 types, right? Maybe I have movie, maybe I have comic, right? Whatever I have there, I want it to be finite. Right? So when you create your game or when you get in your question, it's one of those types. Right? If you look at our data here, let's go back to the data. Trivia type, I have movie trivia. Right? Trivia type, one of the options for the trivia type here. I have music trivia. So far, so good. Right? So those are finite. I don't want anybody to just come in and put in any string they want. I want it to be finite. I want to capture this in an enum. So our job is to create a new file. In that file, it's going to hold an enum. The name of the enum will be trivia type. The name of the file will also be trivia type. So far, so good. We know what we're doing, at least as far as creating a new file. So create a new file, call it trivia type, same as here. In that file, create an enum, and the name of the enum is trivia type. And in there, give us 3 cases at least. Give us 3 cases. One of the cases, example, we have movie trivia. Let's go back to the data. Let's see what we have. I think we have music trivia, and sports trivia. Let me double check on that one. So to the bottom here, no, NYC trivia, sorry. 1 second. So sports trivia and NYC trivia, right? So we have 4 for now. So sports trivia and NYC trivia. Your question, Adan, was should you get rid of the no? We're not getting rid of the convenience initializer. We still need it for the dictionary. All right, the only thing we're doing is refactor string. So when you're done doing the enum type, you refactor the data type of trivia type. The data type of trivia type here, lowercase, will be trivia type. It will be trivia type, like this. So the objective is to make that work. Currently, it doesn't work because it doesn't know what trivia type is. So far, so good? Yes. The convenience, we haven't done it. People that were done with the designated, I told them go ahead and create the convenience. So far, so good? I walked around and I saw some people finish, so I'm like, hey, go ahead and create the convenience because we need it anyway. All right, so we know what we're doing, right? Create a new file. What's the name of the file? Trivia type. How many cases do we have in that type, in the enum type? 4 cases, very good. So we're creating an enum file. In the same file or we're creating a new file? New file or in the same file? New file. So file, new file, in that new file we have our build and make sure you have no errors. Okay, so the question was refactor my data type for trivia type, create an enum, and create that enum into a new file. So we did file new file or command N. It's a Swift file. We're only creating Swift files for now. And we said call it trivia type. And let me zoom this in so you all see. So it's called trivia type. I press create. Right, it's called trivia type here, Mr. Adan, right?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, and what is this? It's an enum, right? So it's an enumeration. And enumerations are great to capture finite values. For now, we have 4 types in our game. We could have more. We could have more types, right? Easy to add additional types. So when the user is using readline, we tell them to select one of the types. Easy to capture. So here I say enum. It's trivia type. Case movie trivia. case, music, trivia, case, sports, trivia, and case, NYC trivia. So far, so good. Okay. Let's go back to our question struct, or class, sorry. Let's go back to our question struct. And at this point, if you command B, well, I command B, still fails. Did I name this wrong? Trivia. Yeah. Great. So now I have my trivia type as my custom type. Very good. So let's take out that to do. This is good. I could keep my options here for now, like that. I have my designated initializer. We said we needed a convenience initializer. Why do we need a convenience initializer that takes in a dictionary? Why do we need it, Greg?
To ensure that there's a valid value for each.
Let's look at our trivia data, right? Our trivia data is an array of dictionaries, right? So far, so good. So if we go through our array of dictionaries, we want to create trivias, right? How do we create that trivia? We create a trivia by passing our convenience initializer a dictionary, like we did this morning, right? This morning, we created a convenience initializer for our playlist. So you create a playlist using that dictionary. Everybody with me? Everybody with me? All right, so, yes.
I have error on the
On the question class,
where it says bar trivia type. I put in trivia type and it says if there's trivia type.
build, Command B. Command B and make sure Xcode recognizes it.
No, I got you.
Okay, I'll be right there. Yes, sir.
Oh, you see where it says trivia type?
Trivia type.
Change, like,
Oh, this guy.
yeah, should that
Yeah, that should change because I have an error here. Is that the error you're talking about, Mr. Josh? Is that the error? Is that the error?
No, that's not fine.
But either way, like as Oscar is saying, you have to change string here because we no longer is our trivia type a string,
Actually, I do have that one.
right? It's not a string anymore. It's trivia type. So you want to update that.
That's what I changed it to.
It should be trivia type here. Right? And build again, your error should go by now.
Yeah, I have trivia type here already.
Okay? So you have 4 strings and 1 trivia type.
My convenience and access.
Okay. I want us to create a convenience initializer using the dictionary that we did today. Thursday, we won't have each other. So today, let's practice in using our notes. You could use your notes on Thursday, by the way. Right? You could use your notes. You could use what do you have to use. Just not each other. So, our next goal here, or to do, create a convenience init available convenience init that takes in the dictionary of type string any. In that case, we could make it string string, but what if I want to add something else that's true? So for now, keep it as string any. So we're creating a available convenience initializer that takes in a dictionary of type string any. What's up?
No, my errors are all.
1 second. Self.trivia type. Okay, this is my initializer so far, my designated initializer. We have 5 arguments or 5 parameters, and we set the 5. And make sure that in your trivia type, you've updated from string to trivia type. So far, so good? Make sure your parameter for trivia type, the data type, make sure the data type is not string. Make sure the data type is what? Trivia type. And make sure that your property for trivia type, the data type is trivia type. Very good. At this point, Command B and your code should work. Yes, sir. One part of Xcode, you might be changing errors, right? One part of Xcode, as you go, as you change, Command D. So we're using our notes for our convenience in it, right? As I always say, Xcode is awesome when it works. When it doesn't, close it, reopen it. Half of your errors will be gone. Well, not all the time. Cool. How are we doing with our convenience in it? How are we doing it here? Using those from this morning. Get used to using our notes. Navigate in the notes, see what's going on, emulate it, take the pieces you need. Take the pieces you need, and life will be good. Like that, it's already 4 o'clock. Yes, because it's going to be fillable. Mr. Matt, you finished? Very good. Let me give you more stuff to do. What's the next step? If you finish, go ahead and go in your main file, in your main Swift file, and use the trivia data to create questions. Like just create an array of questions and see if that works correctly. See if your initializer works correctly. So test your initializer, your convenience in it, in the main.swift file. Where are you? You're in the init? Okay. What is Mr. Antonio saying? He's saying stuff. How we doing? How we doing? We good? Is 50% of people done with their convenience initializer?
No.
I don't have it here. I do not have it on screen. It is here somewhere. It's invisible.
Well, the name of
For people who are done with their convenience initializer, you could go ahead and create a new file, call it game. And in your game will be a class. In your game, have a function or an instance method called getQuestion. GetQuestion should get a random question, or not a random question, but for now, a random question. We'll refactor it. But for now, I'll be able to get a random question from game. All right. We'll finish off today by doing the convenience initializer, and we'll come back tomorrow. So far, so good? All right. So let's go ahead and create our convenience initializer. Right? We said it's a failable initializer. We had it this morning, right? We had it. We have the notes. Cool. What does it take in? What's the parameter? What's the parameter? A dictionary of type string any. So far, so good? And what do we use? We use guard, right? Right? So we use guard to do what? What's guard doing? It's unwrapping, right? It's unwrapping the values from the key. So far, so good? Very good. So here we'll have our guard, let question prompt. And it's the dictionary here. Our dictionary has a key called question. What else? What are we missing? Ask question mark. What does that do? Luba, what does that do? Typecasting or optional downcasting here? Optional downcasting. Because currently, what type is dictionary at key? What type is this? Currently, what type is it? You could option click on question prompt. It's type any, exactly. It's type any, but that doesn't work for us. We need a string. So here we say typecasted to string.
What's the other version of A as question mark?
Force downcasting.
So optional downcasting is a question mark.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Very good. All right, so here we have our question prompt. We go on to do correct answer. And correct answer is a dictionary here. Correct answer. And it's also a string. And we go on to do choices. Our key is called choices in the dictionary. Also a string. And we have fact. As fact, exactly. As string. Trivia type. Aha, that'll be a problem there. Trivia type equal to dictionary here. What type is it? It's trivia type. As it's a string though. So we have a little problem here. You could try to do it that way, but it's gonna fail. It works how? It gives you the type. I mean, you're not gonna have an error, but when you try to build it, you'll get an error, right? That's fine, but when you try to build an object, it's going to fail because in your dictionary, there is no like string in your dictionary here. The trivia type is a string, right? Let's see what we're talking about. So go back to your trivia data and look at your trivia type. What type is this? It's a string, right? So we have to do some extra heavy lifting there. Maybe I leave that as a challenge. Yeah, leave that as a challenge. Yeah, leave it as a challenge. We'll come back tomorrow. I mean, I'll give you some to-dos for tomorrow. I'll leave without errors. Make sure I leave the code without any errors. So here we call our designated initializer. So init, we call question prompt. What's the next thing? Correct answer. Correct answer here. Next one is choices. Choices here. Fact here. And lastly, we have trivia type. Trivia type. Great. So make sure I build. I have an error. Cannot convert. Blah, blah. Okay. Trivia type. Already we have an error here. Mr. Edan. Right? For now, I will hard code a trivia type in here. What was that? Hard coding meaning this is not valid. This is not going to be ideal. It's just to get rid of the error, right? But your task is going to be, this is a to-do here. So to do, get a valid trivia type from the enum to add to the designated initializer below. Up to you what you want to do, sir. So here I want this to be valid. Right now, this is just a hard-coded number, a default value to get rid of the error, right? But our trivia type here is valid. It's a string. So use what you know about enums to figure out what that trivia type is. One of those things would be probably making your enum an associated value. So go to your, not associated value, sorry, raw value. So go to your enum, and the next to do for your enum here, so to do, add or make trivia type a raw value of string. Okay? So this is the to-do for our enum. Make our enum a raw value of type string. That's the to-do here. The next to-do is in our question. In our question, the to-do is get a valid trivia type. Trivia type, just make that one word. Trivia type. Get a valid trivia type from the enum to add to the designated initializer below. So this guy, right, is temporary. Add the valid trivia type here. That's the second to do. Let me give them numbers. So this is, call that the first to do. Second to do is in our enum. I'm coming back. We're going to go through them, don't worry. So our first to do is this guy.
Wait, but if you change
Up to you, sir. Up to you what you want to do. The user gave you some trivia type. This is valid. On line 38, that string is valid. But I want to make it a trivia type, a case. All right? And by now, I should be able to do that movie, by the way, because it knows what this is. Our third to do. Did we have our first to do? We have our first to do. We got our second to do. Second to do is make the trivia type a raw value of string. Did we type this one out? Are we good with number one? No, we're not. Luba, go ahead. Yeah, you could go in either, yeah, you could go either, yeah, that's fine. So first, yeah, you're right. First and second, right? So Luba is saying make this one number 2 and make the enum number 1. How we doing? We typed? What's that? We'll come back to tomorrow. That's for you to do today. Do it today, tomorrow we'll come back. You guys should have it ready. Right? Yeah? Okay. I'll wait, I won't do it. We'll do it together tomorrow. But that should be a challenge to do today. Yeah. What's that?
What are we doing after this?
You're gonna work on this.
What is it?
I'm gonna give you a bunch of to-dos to do. After this. There's always coding after this. How we doing? Can we move on? Okay, so this is step 2. Luba said make this one step 1. So if you go to your enum, our trivia type, converted it to a raw value is step 1. We in the trivia type enum. So far so good. So far so good. All right. Let's create a uno, dos, tres, cuatro. Let's create a new file, and we'll put some to-dos in that new file. So create a new file, Swift file, call it game. You already got that, huh? You guys are flying. All right, let's put a bunch of to-dos in there then. Let's see, so to do, I'm in a new file called game. New file, file new, name it game.
Is it capitalized?
Capitalize always. Don't give me file names with lowercase unless it's like JSON or something. Right? So if it's a custom type, it's uppercase. Everybody with me? And then we name it consistently. Whatever is in there is the same name as the file. So to do here, well, I'll create a boilerplate for you. It's just going to be a class game. That's it. In here, create 3 properties. One, a question array property. 2, a score property. 3, a total questions property. Let me just take all that out and put it inside our game so it's easier to read. All right, good. So those are our properties here. Let's go to methods. We want to be able to get a question, so write the following methods. We have get a question. So write a method to get a question. Well, not just a question, but a shuffled question. remove the question from the questions array above. Right? Because you don't want to have the same question show up twice, right? That's going to be annoying. Total amount of questions you have to answer based on the trivia question. So you have like a, we'll get to it. Create those properties and we'll get to where we're going. Okay? Because you want to be able to stop the loop at some point. So how many questions do I have to go? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Cool? I might have 4, I might have 1. Okay. Method 1, create a method to do, create a method, the following methods, wait. Create the following methods, write a method to get a shuffle question. That's the same part of the question, by the way. That's still 1. I'll stop at some point because we can't keep going here. Next one is write a method to start the game. What this method does, it goes through the question, it creates the questions, and it adds them to the array. So write a method to start the game. This method creates the array of questions, right? And look, this I'm even showing you. So the array of questions looks something like this. Array of questions. And the questions, you have the variable up here. You have a questions array. Questions array looks something like this. I think that's enough to get us going, right? Yes? Do we want more? Yes, what's your question? Errors are one thing, right? Oh, let's just write one more and then there's always one more. Look at Apple videos. Number 3, write a method to check if the answer is correct. It checks if the answer is correct, right? And what else should it do? What else should it do? Return is one thing, but if I have it correct, what do I want? Increase the score, right? So also increase the score. So thank you, Amini. So write a method to check if the answer is correct and increment the score. We're almost there. If we have 3 more methods, can we do 3 more methods? Because somebody's going to come with this thing completed tomorrow. Should we do the 3 more? All right, that's enough. That's enough. I don't know. People wanted more, so I gave more. But we'll stop here. Do what you can. Tomorrow we'll continue. I'm not going to touch my code. Tomorrow I'll continue where we left off. Everybody? Everybody. But that doesn't mean we close our computers. That means we challenge ourselves and we attempt the thing. Does that make sense? Yes. We come back tomorrow, we have questions. Maybe we have the project done. Whatever it is. We'll come back tomorrow where we left off today. But you go and you try to solve it. Cool? So we'll stop here.